Hello, my friends. For those who have never seen my videos before, my name is Monteiro. I'm Portuguese. I have had Cholinergic Urticaria for almost 3 years and suffered a lot with that. I'm cured since 2014 by the traditional Chinese medicine, and since that time I started to study Chinese medicine and guide people with urticaria to achieve the cure, as I did. Please subscribe my YouTube channel and activate the notifications so you can be notified whenever I publish videos. You also can share my videos on Facebook groups of urticaria so other people can watch and learn how to get cured. Thank you. I start by doing a short follow-up of the previous videos. In my previous videos, I told my story, I told my case of urticaria. I explained the foundations of traditional Chinese medicine in general, but also applied to urticaria the concept of yin and yang. The way yin and yang functioning is so important in urticaria, and the schedules of each sleeping organ. These are the basics for people to understand me and understand the traditional Chinese medicine approach to hives or urticaria, if you prefer. In this video, I will explain where we start to get cured of urticaria and what is the first step to start reducing the itch and the sensation of pinpricks and stings and the itch, of course. For this, I begin by explaining the internal physiological process that creates hives and why there are stings, itching, and spots on the skin. From the moment we enter in this more practical and concrete part about what to do to start to reduce the intensity of the hives until getting the cure, achieving the cure, it will be no longer possible to explain everything in one only single video. So this chapter will possibly be divided into 3 videos that will be continuation of each other. To explain what happens internally, I will give an example that I usually use with people who reach me for help. The example is the engine of a car. It can overheat for 2 reasons. One is excessive effort or activity, which in Chinese medicine is yang, or also by lack of water, which is yin. There are 2 different aspects of or eating factors, but they have the same end result. It is the excess of heat, of inner heat. Like the engine of the car, and as I explained in previous videos, the human body also can overheat or create inner conditions to install chronic heat, or as I prefer to call it, to install a heat source. As with the engine, this can happen due to excessive effort or activity that can be physical or emotional, or by the mix of both, or even also by lack of water. I'm not referring especially to the situation of people who don't drink water because they don't like to drink or because they can forget, but also to people in whom an internal heat source, this is very important, has been installed. Please note, and I repeat, people on whom an internal heat source is installed, which is yang in Chinese medicine. The result of heat sources on water, as we all know, is to make it disappear. The water disappears by the action of heat. It gets dry, and end result, dryness. Applied to our body, this means that all the water we drink disappears. It vanishes due to the heat source action that is installed internally. In Chinese medicine, a very high yang consumes a large amount of yin, and it is the best proof that there is a clear relationship between heat and the disappearance of water. In the human body, when compared to the engine, which is purely about activity or rest and water or cold air, we still need to add the action of emotions and foods that are chosen by the person, since they are also great sources of heat. They can also be balancing if the person chooses correctly, if the choices are different, both in terms of the life situations we choose to expose or avoid, and the foods we choose to consume or not to consume or avoid. Also, the level of inefficiency of the organs to eliminate toxins and perform their functions must be considered in the human body. As I also explained in previous videos, this ineffectiveness comes from the exhaustion or imbalances of the organs caused by the 7 negative emotions. We always start by reducing yang. It is easier and faster to increase the yang than the yin, and it is also easier to reduce the yang than the yin because it takes more time. It's faster to make a fire, which is raising the yang, than the yin, which is, for example, making an ice cube. So if we have an excess of heat problem or pathology, even if it comes from an empty of yin or lack of yin, we should start by lowering the yang because it's faster. This will relieve symptoms more quickly. Even in cold urticaria, depending on the time that the person has urticaria and the degree of intensity, we may have to start the treatment by lowering the yang, because as I will explain in following videos, the excess of yin, which is cold, also leads to internal heat by reaction. This is very important. The person may only have organs that need to get warmed, but may also have already developed inner heat caused by the excess of yin. If that is the case, we have an opposite syndrome. It is formed inside of us. The person has some inner organs that need to be warmed, but also the person has heat that needs to be eliminated from the system. The proof of this is that if we put a lighter flame on the skin, we end up having a burn on the skin. But if we put, this is very curious, if we put an ice cube, we will also have the same result at the end, which is a burn. The extremes, yin, which is cold, and yang, which is hot, always conduct lead to the opposite extreme. Also, for this reason, drinking ice water is very harmful for those who have hives or urticaria, especially if it is cholinergic, because the body will heat up. It will produce heat to warm up this ice water, and consequently the metabolism will also be increased to perform this action. All of this is an increase of yang. As I just said, I always start by lowering the yang. I want this to be clear, not because it is more effective in terms of achieving a cure, but because it is faster in relieving the symptoms of urticaria. This aspect is central, is fundamental and very important for the cure, because when people get to Chinese medicine, they already come from years and years of failed fights against hives or urticaria. They struggled a lot since the long periods, and they are already worn out, and if they do not feel any relief or improvement quickly or immediately, they will be unable to continue with the rules and discipline that the Chinese medicine will ask for and require. People are also on the wrong path of looking for a miracle formula, a miracle pill, a miracle drug. And when they get to Chinese medicine, they come even more thirsty for it. The quick and miraculous cure, the fast and miraculous diet. However, the first message they receive is exactly the opposite. Because there is no single protocol. All cases are different. The only thing they have in common is that everyone will take time to get cured, like between 4 to 5 months, if all the necessary conditions for the treatment are united, and if the cases have been installed for a long time, the treatment period will be longer or maybe longer. So I start by lowering the yang, so that people can see in just a few days that after all there is a clear relief of the symptoms and consequently a path to the cure. Diet is the first step, but it's not the center of the treatment for urticaria or hives, if you prefer. The center of the treatment is the person being able to identify which emotions made his or her organs unbalanced according to the process that I have been explaining in my previous videos. She needs to, or he, they need to learn the Chinese thinking. They need acupuncture, Chinese herbal medicine, and all the therapeutic techniques that that compose the Chinese medicine. At last, and very, very important, the life changes they have to make to get out of this territory of negative emotions. We started with the diet because it gives some quick results, but also because it is a very easily accessible weapon. As an example, I will say that it is much more easier and faster to choose what we are going to eat according to a goal that we have, or to eliminate some foods or to replace those foods, than living, for example, an abusive marriage or a job where we are treated badly, or selling a house that we can no longer afford, or saving the life of a child who has a serious illness condition, or learning to deal, for example, with any abuse or violation that we have suffered in the past. For this reason, we use our first weapon, the diet. As I explained in previous videos, there are yin and yang foods. Yin foods reduce the internal heat and decrease the metabolism. Yang foods increase, they rise up the heat and also the metabolism. Of all foods, what most creates heat, the one that creates more heat, is the animal protein, within which eggs are the worst for those who have a pathology associated with heat, such as urticaria. Eggs are the worst of all. Also, colorants, preservatives, alcohol, coffee, because it rises up the activity of the person, nervous system, industrial sauces, and everything industrial, like pizzas, lasagna, spices, pepper, spicy foods, or piri-piri, chili, palm oil, tobacco, baked goods, canned goods like canned fish, for example, milk and its derivatives like cheeses and butter. These also yogurt. These foods are banned in the initial phase of the diet, initial period of the diet, in almost all hives types or urticaria types. But as all cases are different, anyone who has a cold urticaria or has problems with thinness, for example, cannot simply eliminate these foods without a rule and without the surveillance of someone qualified for it. It is necessary to know how to do it, and especially for how long. This works by diet cycles that can vary depending on the case. That can vary by the person's physical condition and physical characteristics, or depending on associated pre-existing pathologies or complications such as diabetes or heart problems, autoimmune diseases such as lupus, for example. So, for this reason, it is mandatory that the person to be under the guidance of a Chinese medicine doctor and does not start a program alone based on what I explain in my videos. Very important note. I will leave here a very important note. One question that people I guide always ask me is if these dietary restrictions are going to stay forever. And they also ask me if they will never be able to eat these foods again. Just as they ask me if I don't eat any of these foods. The answer is very simple. These restrictions are not forever, nor could be, because these restrictions are a little bit hard and would create problems in our health. When they are cured, when they get cured, they will be able to eat and drink everything again. But at the moment, they will have a completely different food education and a completely different emotional management capacity, much better, and they will no longer be at risk. For me, in what concerns to me, yes, I eat and drink everything I want without taking any medication, zero, and also without any food prohibition. In my next video, I will explain how to start the first cycle of diet, to start reducing internal heat, reducing the itch, and why itch happens. I will explain that. I will explain what phlegm is and what are the foods that create phlegm. I hope you liked my videos. I hope you liked this video, and watch my next videos that will appear on the screen at the end. I'd like to ask, please also put your like in my videos and subscribe my YouTube channel, Luís Monteiro, Chronic Urticaria Cure by Traditional Chinese Medicine. If you write any of these words, you will find me on YouTube. And follow my blog, which is chronicurticariacure.com, where you can register in the discussion forum and post your urticaria case so that I can answer you when your turn comes. Below, I leave the link so you can follow me. Until my next video, many thanks. Thank you all. Stay safe.